Good evening, everyone. How are we all doing? Welcome back to another live stream on the channel. We've got lots of transfer news to get in tonight. It's been quite a few days, but we've had a lot of new transfer stuff coming out today in Datro Fofana, Fabio Carvalho, and Yaser Asprilla, who we're going to be getting into in tonight's stream. So yeah, 3 players to go through. There's been some other rumours, obviously here and there on some other players such as Ben Doak and whatnot. So we'll get into them towards the end of today's stream. But yeah, finally, there is some transfer news regarding Leicester. Like I said, it's been a very quiet couple of weeks. Leicester need to, get going now. The season is 2 weeks away. This time in 2 weeks' time, we'll be 30 minutes into the game against Tottenham. So yeah, we need to get some players in through the door. We need a striker, we need a midfielder, and probably another winger. As we've said on the channel numerous times. As always, get involved in the chat. Drop a like on the stream, subscribe if you haven't already, all of that good stuff. And yeah, we're going to get straight into the rumours, and I think there's only one place to start, and that's Fabio Carvalho. So I'm just going to move myself down. Haven't prepared very well today at all, but yeah, this is literally just from a couple of minutes ago, really. I originally did the stream just on the 2 players, but obviously Fabrizio has dropped this. Obviously, there was some interest in Carvalho. I think it was January, and obviously went to Hull City in the end and did very well for them in half the season. But yeah, exclusive. Leicester City enter the race for Fabio Carvalho as talks start for former Fulham player. Southampton had a bid rejected by Liverpool last week, and I believe that bid was around £15 million. So for me, I think this would be a fantastic signing. We're crying out for like a curated midfielder. And I think for the player himself, I think it's a move which should work out very well for him. Is he at Liverpool standard? Yeah. Is he Champions League worthy? Probably not. But he's much better than playing in the Championship and pushing for playoffs like he did for Hull City last season. So in my opinion, I think this would be a huge signing for Leicester. Obviously, we're only entering the race, so there's still a long way to go. I won't put it past Leicester bossing this one as well. Obviously, Steve Cooper mentioned in his post-match interview on Saturday that Leicester had a few players close to joining last week. So I imagine that potentially was Jordan Ayew and maybe Reece Nelson, or potentially someone completely random. And I think Carvalho is probably like a backup target, which Leicester are going in for. But it's not a bad backup at all. And I think this is a player we really need to try and get in, because I think it's just part. I think someone like Carvalho is part of the puzzle which is missing, and I think if Leicester can bring someone who's got a bit of creativity in midfield, who likes to get at the teams, enter the final third. I think it would be a good signing. But the striker situation is very concerning. I think that's why we saw the links today with obviously Datro Fofana, which we'll get into a bit later. But I don't think he is the complete answer for that, but it's better than nothing. Yeah, we were linked with him in January, and obviously finances were very tight. That was a low move, but obviously Leicester in that window are trying to get Sensi. So how are we forward in this? I don't know if the finances are actually that bad. It's a weird one, because obviously we offered 30 million apparently for Sule, so I don't know the finances. Obviously Dewsbury Hall left. Obviously we would have got money for going up. So I think Leicester do have some money to play around with, but I don't really get where the club's going at the minute. So obviously, Gabriel Sara went to Galatasaray for about 17 million, and a lot of people are wondering why Leicester didn't really go in for him. We potentially could have, and obviously talks could have broken down, but it's a bit of a strange one that, considering you got a good player there available as well. But anyway, evening, hope you're doing all right. Can you see us getting another 2 to 3 signings? Well, I hope so. Before the start of the season, probably not. Before the end of the window, I'd say yes, definitely. I think we could probably get 2 in before the first game of the season. I'm hoping that can be Carvalho and Datro Fofana. I think they're the two. I think they're the 2 positions we definitely need. Obviously, we'll get into his position, his stats a bit later. But obviously, we all know who Fabio Carvalho is, so there's no need to go into too much detail. But yeah, I think in terms of a number on it, I'll probably say 2 before Tottenham. And hopefully by the end of the window, we can get about 4 in total, potentially 5 if we get a few loans in. But yeah, Leicester don't really seem to be getting on with anything very quickly at the minutes. But yeah, it's the Leicester way. It's the Rudkin way. Got to use the money wisely. Yeah, Jordan Ayew, obviously. That's gone a bit quiet, so we'll have to see. But the thing is, we are linked with all these players, but half of them are in America right now. Carvalho apparently started pre-season quite well for Arne Slot, so be interesting if they do want to let him go, but it looks like they potentially do, with Southampton having a bid rejected. But that's the thing, if Leicester do want to stay up, Southampton are interested, we need to go and get him, because we can't be affording teams like Southampton who are going to be probably one of our biggest competitors next season to stay up. We can't afford to be letting them take good players like Carvalho. Obviously, there's been links around O'Reilly. Surprised no one's mentioned him. Yeah, it looks like he's going to potentially be going to Brighton. So I think that one is probably off the cards. But there's still interest from Leicester. But anyway, let's have a bit of a look at his stats and whatnot. Obviously, just like I said, I think we all know who he is, what type of player he is. But I think it's interesting to look at how he's performed. Obviously, he's mainly an attacking midfielder in the number 10. Still only 21. It seems like he's been around for quite a while now. But I think in terms of his last season, it was very productive. Obviously, in the Premier League, he's only had 17 appearances and 3 goals for Hull City. Last year, he was fairly good. In total, he's got 19 goals, 10 assists in the Championship. Obviously, he was at Fulham for a little bit as well, where he obviously performed so well there. He got that move to Liverpool, but I don't think he's ready really for Liverpool. But it's quite surprising that Liverpool are interested in a sale, potentially alone. But obviously, you had a spell at Leipzig as well. Don't know if that went too well. He joined Liverpool for what, 16 million, I think it was in the end. So yeah, I think we're looking at probably the same. As market value is currently around 14 million, so you're basically looking at about 15, 14 million, something around that region, which I think is quite reasonable for a player of his ability. But yeah, let's get back into the chat. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on Fabio Carvalho. Problem is we aren't that attractive of a club to join right now with possible points deduction, etc. Yeah, we should have the edge over someone like Southampton. I think for a young player, if you got someone like Steve Cooper who's got a track record of helping young players improve, I think it's a good manager to work under. We've obviously got the training ground, which is obviously always going to help us in these type of deals. But yeah, it just really depends upon the player. I don't think he'd be too bothered really in terms of Southampton or Leicester. It's probably who's going to offer more. And if I had to make a prediction, that'd probably be Southampton, because Leicester don't really seem to be doing much at the moment in the transfer window. But then again, the business this year has been much more quiet than usual, so we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, just before we move on to a couple of other players, I just want to look at how effective this guy was for Fulham in the Championship. And obviously this was quite similar at Hull, but cheers for the adverts. But yeah, I think performing this well at a team like Fulham and Hull, because I think playing for Liverpool is quite different, because there's so much more pressure there, and obviously it's a huge club and he's not really the main man. But I think if Leicester managed to get him in, he's probably going to be one of our most important players this season, and he thrives. And as you can see for Fulham in that Championship season when they got promoted, he was all over the shop throughout that middle kind of third. Very creative, lots of goals and assists. And I think it's obvious that's what Leicester City need right now. We simply don't have a player right now in the team, in my opinion, who can advance from midfield and really, start to create chances. And from the pre-season games I've watched, we are lacking a player who can, get that ball from the 1/3 and progress it into the next and really try and penetrate teams, because we're doing quite well to keep hold of the ball and get into good areas, but we're just lacking that kind of finish. And obviously we definitely need to get a new striker as well. When will we find out our final verdict on the point deduction? God knows, mate. My best bet would probably be about 2 months, I think, something like that. But doesn't look like it's getting sorted anytime soon. Obviously, the Premier League don't really know the rules themselves, so they're just going to probably figure out a number and make out some stupid backing up for it. But yeah, honestly, I don't have a Scooby Doo on that one. But anyway, let's move on to another player who's a bit of an interesting one. There's quite a lot of teams interested in this guy, but he is a Colombian winger from Watford. Yaser Asprilla, I think his name is. Well, that's how it's pronounced, I think. There's been a lot of reports suggesting that Sadarani are quite close to getting the deal done, but then again, there are some reports saying that it's not. So Fabrizio said that Rennes talks are in standby. Leicester City, Aston, but FC Porto and Girona have also made contact to understand the conditions of the deal. Now, if you look at them clubs there, obviously like Porto, Girona, Rennes are all much more attractive. But I think the only benefit we hear of Leicester is the fact that obviously it's still in England. He was at Watford last season, was very good. I think he's more than capable of coming to the Premier League. But I think in terms of this man, it's going to be quite difficult to get him in. His price tag is going to be quite high. Apparently, Ren offered 25 million, which is well out of our price range, in my opinion. But then again, it looks like the deal for him to go to Ren is stalling quite a bit as well. So we'll have to wait and see on this one. I think the chance of this happening is quite unlikely, but he's a very exciting player, Colombian as well. We don't really get many of them. So this one could be another potential option for us. Obviously, this is another winger. I don't know why we're so obsessed with getting wingers in, but I think this would be a very exciting signing if we could get it done. But in my opinion, it's not really at the top of our priority list. But he's a very good talent, tricky winger, gets at people, good goal output. It's kind of what you want, really. Provides more competition, more backup for Fatu, Mavadidi, and especially if Steffi's playing that more 10 role, he could potentially be starting. Caleb, welcome to the stream. Hopefully you are doing all right. In terms of Asprilla, his agent was reportedly, if I can find it, was in Birmingham today, which is interesting. So obviously, I think it's very obvious that this man is on the move. But as Fabrizio said, obviously there's 4 clubs interested, including Leicester. So it all depends on where the player wants to go to. But yeah, I think Leicester do have a slight advantage in terms of the location, but depends where he wants to go, because obviously he's not English by any stretch. So yeah, I think it's one to keep your eye on, but I wouldn't put your bets on it getting done, in my opinion. But anyway, let's get on to the next player, who was announced this morning. Well, not announced, was linked this morning. So yeah, from Fabrizio Romano again. So as reliable as it gets. But yeah, in terms of the player, Chelsea player. What a surprise. David Datro Fofana expected to leave Chelsea this summer on a loan with a possible obligation to buy clause. Understand Leicester City are currently leading the race, with Stuttgart and Villarreal also interested. Now, again, it's another player who Leicester are interested in. But in terms of this one, Leicester are apparently leading the race, which is obviously a big positive. I've said multiple times, use the loan market, and here's a perfect chance to do so. I think if you ask me the chances of this getting done, I think it's way higher than Asprilla, because Chelsea are going to want to loan him to get experience. Premier League obviously suits them. They probably don't want to strengthen a rival in the Premier League, but in terms of improving, and if Chelsea want to keep hold of him in the long term, I think if he moves to someone like Stuttgart or Villarreal, he's probably not going to progress to the same standard as if he can progress at Leicester. But in terms of the player himself, I think it's a bit of a weird one, because I've had a lot of people say he's quite similar to Patson Daka, in the sense that he's very fast, but his finishing just isn't really that great. So yeah, it's a tough one. He was obviously on loan at Burnley for a bit last season, did all right there, but then again he got relegated. And Leicester seems to got a pattern right now of signing loan of players who got relegated. So yeah, it's not the best, for experience wise, but he's an exciting player. There's a reason why Chelsea did sign him originally. Obviously, he hasn't worked out there, but then again, it's pretty impossible to get into the Chelsea team right now with about 20 players in every position. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I wouldn't be against it, really, because I think we need depth up top. I think everyone knows it. Vardy's still injured, so is he going to be ready first game of the season? Probably not. It's the worst way to begin any type of season, with your main striker out on the sidelines. Is Daka the answer? No. Is Tom Cannon the answer? Absolutely not. And that's nothing on Tom Cannon. He just hasn't got the experience to start week in, week out in the Premier League. In my opinion, and I think if Leicester did, it just wouldn't work. So strikers definitely needed. Could we potentially get better? Yes. Are Leicester panicking? Yes. We've had so long to try and bring someone in. It just feels like Leicester are just going to try and want to pick someone up on loan quickly, get him in through the door, and get him started. So yeah, it is. It's one of them, really. But I'm not going to complain, because we just need depth up front, and if he can score a few goals, it's probably what we need. But yeah. Tuscan Foxer, big up. The club has some very good academy. Do you see anybody in there who we could bring up? In terms of the academy, I think Will Alves will be involved in the team. He's been very involved in pre-season so far. Apart from that, if you're talking, having minutes in the Premier League, I wouldn't really say anyone else right now. Obviously, I've said it a few times. I think Wanya Marcel will go out alone. I think Brandon Cover will. I think Braybrook will. In terms of anybody else, I don't really think anyone's going to be breaking, into the first team like Will Alves will. But I think we've got a lot of good young players. Obviously, Golding is signed. Obviously, he's not from the academy, but I think he's going to be another young player who'll be into the first team. this season. Tom Cannon needs to have a chance. Look good in the Championship when he rarely played. Maybe he's done in training. I don't know, man. I don't know about Cannon. He had a few good games at the start of the year, but I don't know. Obviously, it was Huddersfield and Millwall as well. You have to bear that in mind. Obviously, we started him at Coventry Way. I don't think he did much then. Obviously, that was a bit of disaster class with the 10 men, but I don't think he's ready for the Premier League in my opinion. I think he's a very good striker. He can finish, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to be. If you're playing Tom Cannon against the likes of Van Dijk and Ruben Dias, etc., and even teams like Aston Villa and Newcastle or whatnot, they're pushing into Europe. I just think he struggled, to be perfectly honest. So I wouldn't be against giving him a chance. Obviously, I want him to do well, but I don't know. If you said him or Daka, I wouldn't. 50-50 in my opinion. Obviously, Daka's got more experience, but then again, Daka can't finish. So yeah, it's one of them really. I don't think any of them are two good options. And in my opinion, we should have just kept hold of Kelechi if we're going to do this. But yeah, free up Kyle. I just don't know how a manager can choose Daka over anyone. Yeah, you're not wrong, to be fair. Daka had numerous chances last season in big games, and he almost got us. Well, to be fair, Daka almost obviously stopped us from going up with the chances he missed in some games. Obviously, it wasn't his fault completely, but in those big moments where we're going to have big moments and in little amounts this season in terms of getting chances, we're not going to have 5, 6, 7 big chances a game. If we get a chance, we're going to have to finish it. So we need someone who can just finish their dinner, just like Vardy. But if Vardy's out, obviously we don't have that. So it's hard, but it's that thing in football though. It's pretty impossible to find a striker who's going to score you 10, 15 goals a season and be consistent. It's probably one of the hardest things to do, in my opinion. But anyway, that's how a close look at Datro Fofana. Obviously, he's a striker, as we mentioned a few times, and he is a slightly different striker. He's not really the type like Vardy who just kind of but obviously runs in behinds and finishes. His take-ons are very high for a carry, about 2 per game, which is pretty decent. Progressive carries are up there as well. His tackles are good, so from that you can say his press is good. But obviously, it's only a little stat. In terms of his output as well, though, it's pretty average. If we can find it, get ready for the advert. Obviously, he was at Burnley for a stretch last season. Didn't really get too much game time at Chelsea. So it's pretty average. But then again, you can't really expect much. In a relegation team. But then again, that could be Leicester this year. So you could say, oh yeah, it's not good to have players who got relegated, as I said earlier on. But then again, he does know the challenge. So he could put it one or two ways, in my opinion. Let's have a quick look at his career. So I don't actually know where he's been really, but yeah, we'll have a look. So obviously arrived at Chelsea, came from Union Berlin. So yeah, he didn't actually play at Chelsea then at all, did he? He came in January from Union Berlin, right? So I didn't really know that. So yeah, he hasn't really been given much of a chance at Chelsea. 18 appearances, 4 goals, 1 assist. Wasn't awful. His goal record is not fantastic, but he is a fairly young striker, so you can't really expect too much. Still 21 years old, just like Carvalho. Market value is at about 12 million. So yeah, it's good to see Leicester are going in for some younger players. But is that Datro Fofana the answer for Leicester this season? I don't know. I really don't know. It's a tough one. Really is. But Leicester are the leading candidate, you could say, to get this deal done. So this could be one which just gets done. I think this is probably the most likely transfer to get done out of anybody right now. Obviously, it's been very quiet the past couple of days, but we have had 2 things come out of the press today, which is good to see. So hopefully Leicester can work on these and hopefully get at least one in by the end of this week. Fingers crossed, depending on how quickly we can do it. Obviously, loan deals usually obviously take less longer than the full transfer. So and obviously Leicester have worked well. Chelsea, well, I'd say worked well. Leicester have done negotiations with Chelsea quite a few times over the past couple of years, so it shouldn't be too much of a hassle to get Datro Fofana in. Yeah, we can get the real Fofana from Chelsea. But anyway, let's get back into the chat. If you've got any other thoughts, feel free to let me know. We're going to have a quick chat about the pre-season, because obviously there was a bit of a slight meltdown on Saturday. I only managed to watch half of the game, so I obviously won't analyse the game too much because I didn't watch it. Who have been consistently playing at the back? Who's going to start in the Prem out of Cody, Vestergaard, Fazakerr, and even Suter? I don't think it'll be Suter. Definitely not. There's been talks of him going on loan. in terms of who's going to start, I reckon it might be a back four. I know I said loads on the channel it's going to be a back three, but I'm swaying towards a back four. To be fair, I think as of right now, I reckon it could be Cody and without Faz. Cody seems to be heavily involved in pre-season. Obviously, we'll get a better idea. I think the team who starts on Saturday against Lens will pretty much be the team which will start against Tottenham, unless we bring anybody in between that and the Tottenham game. But I think if you ask me right now, I'd say Cody and Faz, potentially Faz and Vestergaard. I don't think a Cody will start. I don't think Suter will start. Definitely not. But yeah, I think Cody's going to be a shoo-in really this season, in my opinion. I think Cooper just wants that experience. Just a thought: is there a lot of older players sitting on benches on big teams unhappy? You think we could take one? Yeah, it's one of them. Though I don't really like getting someone in who's been sat on the bench for a big team and then coming down to us in a relegation dogfight. I think we need players who who've had minutes in recent seasons and who are know what type of fight they'll be in for. But depends really. I say it again. I would still love Leicester to get someone like Eddie Nketiah in, but it just doesn't like ever going to get anywhere near that. So obviously in terms of Nketiah, he's not old, but yeah, I think if Leicester are going to go for that route of kind of getting players who are up, sat on benches at big clubs, I'd rather go for someone a bit younger. Obviously, if they are sat on a bench at a big club, they're still going to be half decent to be at that big club in the first place. Not against Cody starting. Got Prem experience. Vestergaard, bit of a donkey with his pace in the Prem. Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Lamy do play this season. I think in terms of Tottenham, it's obviously they don't really have too much pacing behind, particularly but without Son. Obviously, Richarlison, is not the fastest of players. Kulusevski is fairly fast, but yeah, I think in terms of that first game off, the first game could be a back three though, because obviously it's Tottenham, it's a big six team, so Cooper may obviously mix it up a bit depending on the opposition. But I think for the vast majority, if you look at the games against Fulham and Palace and whatnot, who come after that away from home, you could probably say a back four. But yeah, I think in terms of tactics, there's still a lot to go in for. But yeah. Anyway, let's get into some other news then. Obviously, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Ben Doak, this one's been on the radar for a few weeks. Obviously, another younger player from Liverpool. I think this guy's got a lot of potential in him. He's a player, he's probably going to want to move on. But then again, there's teams interested again. Brentford, Leicester, and Southampton once again are interested. So, Leicester and Southampton seems to be, very interested in the same sort of players, and I think this is why it's pivotal that Leicester make sure we get them good players. In at the King Power rather than at St Mary's. Obviously, Ipswich have done quite a lot of their transfer business already. If you're looking at some of the newly promoted teams, obviously they've opted for more, players from the Championship who did well last season, the likes of Jacob Groups and whatnot defensively. But yeah, I think Ben Doak is a fantastic talent. Did score against Leicester last year in that pre-season friendly. If you cast your minds back to that one. Out in Thailand, 18 years old. He can leave on loan this summer following the conclusion of their pre-season, which I think is now done. In terms of the source, I'm not too sure. From Daily Express, so not fantastic, but not awful. So, yeah, it's one to keep your eye on once again. But then again, if he's gonna, I think a move to Brentford's probably far more attractive than Leicester at the minute. But then again, it is another winger that could be a potential backup if Yaser Asprilla doesn't come in from Watford. But yeah, and Nketiah would be priced stupidly high. I think for Nketiah, I'd probably say a loan, but yeah, Arsenal would charge a lot. Obviously, Smith Rowe went for something ridiculous to Fulham, but I think Nketiah when he seems to play, I don't know, he just does well. To be fair, in my opinion, I think he's a tidy. I think he's a tidy striker, and I think he's a striker who could do far better than sit on the bench at Arsenal and get limited appearances. You know what I mean? I just think someone Premier League pushing top 10. I think he'd do well out there. But anyway, let's have a look at a potential lineup then. So I saw this tweet on Twitter, obviously, about how we could potentially set up in the first game. I think it's from Fossil as always. So I'm going to get that up and we'll discuss that. I think it's quite interesting about how our team could be if we do get a couple of the players who are linked in. So yeah, this could potentially be it, roughly. So obviously the back four, I think, obviously he's opted for a Cody. You could do whatever you want, really. Herman's in the goals, a shoe-in. Ricardo shoe-in. Fazakerley, just like I said, 50-50 really. Christensen, I'll back that at left back in my opinion. I think he's much better than James Justin. I think Harry Winks and Wolf are going to be set in stone as the two midfielders. I think that's pretty obvious. Obviously, we've gone with Carvalho in the 10, which I think is position made for him. Just like I said numerous times, we don't really have anyone in the squad right now who can play that role. And obviously, the front three, you got Steffi on the left, Abdul on the right, which I think is needed really. I think playing Fatu on the left is just restricting him because one of his main abilities is to cut inside on his left foot and whip it into the top corner. And obviously, you've opted for Datro Fofana up top. So yeah, if this was a team come first game against Tottenham, I'd be fairly happy with that. Do I think that'll be the team? Probably not. But yeah, I think it's very obvious to see the holes in this side right now. And even if Leicester do get Carvalho in, I think another midfielder is needed as well because all it takes is one injury, a suspension, and he's pretty stuffed. And obviously Leicester could bring it back and play more defensively, potentially play someone like Samari in that and play a flat three midfield. But then again, you're not going to really create anything at all with that. That brings back the club who old days of playing Chowdhury and Didi Mendy in one midfield, which is hideous. But to be fair, it did work, to be fair, a few times. But obviously, in terms of this, you're going to have a lot of output from out wide in terms of Christensen and Ricardo. Christensen's going to stay. He's going to want to be a fullback who bombs up and down. And if he isn't doing that, he's probably going to want to go and leave because that is his strength, really. So, yeah, that could be the team. I think it's quite open defensively still, but it will be better than what we have right now. 100%. But yeah, there's still 2 weeks is still a long time in football. But then again, the last 2 weeks have gone quickly, and we haven't done anything. So it could go one or two ways. Will Alves gets decent game time this year? I do agree. Hopefully so. Hoping certain players don't get affected by the change of style with Cooper, and I doubt Ricardo will play. No, definitely not. Did he will push up? I think, yeah, I don't think they will do that, but if needed, they can. Like, let's say we're chasing the game and we want to push people forward. At least we've got someone like Ndidi who's kind of used to playing that role. But I don't think Ndidi's cut out to be starting, an advanced 8 role in the Premier League week in, week out. But then again, obviously when Wolf used to get the ball played to his feet, edge of the box, we were all very uncomfortable. I think we still will be now, but slightly less because obviously he has played that more attacking role and he should be slightly more comfortable on the ball. But then again, he's a professional footballer, so he should be comfortable on the ball in any scenario. But I think, his attacking mindset and, his attacking intelligence would have definitely improved last season under Endo. Playing delayed. Unlucky buddy. To be fair, every time I get a flight which is like anything past 6 a.m, it's delayed every time. So yeah, just fly in the morning, boys. Works so much better. But yeah, I'm getting back for the big season. Where we're going to go down. But anyway, but yeah, I think we've pretty much gone for everything, to be perfectly honest. I was going to have a quick look on Twitter just to see if there is anything, but I'll be very surprised considering we've had 2 leaks today in terms of transfer news. Don't think so, but positive for once. We've got players who potentially. I'm away for the first game. Unlucky boys. I'm Fulham sold out as well for me, so I can't get a ticket for that, which is annoying. But yeah, 2 weeks to go. Not long to go at all. Obviously, one pre-season game left. Unless, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if the club did play a behind closed doors friendly against somebody in the week. But yeah, I think that Lens game is going to tell you quite a lot. And obviously, it's only pre-season, but I do want us to perform well in that Lens game because if we get battered 3-4-0, it's going to be slightly concerning going into the first game. I think pre-season as a whole hasn't really been too great. Also results on anything, but I think in terms of the performances, we have been lacking a little bit, particularly in the last couple of games. First couple of games, it doesn't really matter, but I think if you look at Leicester's performance on Saturday, it wasn't too great. Conceded from a corner, so there's still a lot of work to do. But yeah, the lads are back at Seagrove, so we can really get going now and get ready for that first game against Tottenham because that's going to be a real test. And if Leicester, aren't up to standard, it could be a pretty embarrassing night. Obviously, I want to say positive, but I think that is the reality of it. At least if it's delayed in England, yeah. To be fair, when I went to Germany, I went to this airport all the time. It had about 5 flights going out the whole day. There was absolutely nothing there. The only place they had was McDonald's, and that was before we went through security. So, yeah, if you fly into Frankfurt, make sure to book the right Frankfurt and don't go to one which isn't even in Frankfurt, but it's called Frankfurt. Got absolutely done there. But anyway, yeah, boys, thank you very much for coming in. We have reached the half an hour mark, so we're going to wrap it up here. Make sure to go and drop a like. As we always say, massive does help the channel out. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. We're very close to 4,000, so we kind of reached that before the start of the new season, which is obviously 2 weeks away. So it's fairly doable. That will be massively appreciated. But hopefully, I can do a few more streams this weekend. This week, sorry. Knowing that there'll hopefully be a few more rumours. But Carvalho potentially on the way. Datro Fofana as well. Asprilla is a bit of a interesting one that could potentially happen. Or not. Obviously, there is a few rumours around Bendok or whatnot, but I think hopefully we can get somebody in by at least that Lens game and potentially even play them. But that is still a long way to go. Tom, hello and goodbye, mate. Thanks for coming in. Much appreciated as always, boys. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Fingers crossed tomorrow. If we get some more news and potentially an accepted bid or something's gone closer and not just interested FC. See you later, lads. All the best.